It's the question I've been asked dozens of times the last 3 or 4 days. Will cruise lines have to cancel cruises into 2022 because of the current situation and the rise of cases in the United States and on board cruise ships? We will talk about where we're at right now and where I think we will be. Plus, I will share this. I think the CDC is very close to enacting something that it has not enacted against the cruise industry since the cruise restart. It has always been on the table, but it's never been enacted, and I think we're close. It could be enacted in 2022. Let's talk about this big question right now on Island Time. A big happy Monday, Islanders. We hope you had a great weekend. Some of you are still off work. We hope that you are. Some of you have gone back to work and you're working hard today. I know how it goes. There's so much going on this week in the cruise industry. All of us are keeping our eyes and our attention focused to what's going on as we continue to try to update you with the latest news and experience as we just got off the Carnival Vista on Christmas Eve. I must say this, thank you so much for joining us last night. We had a great crowd. We shared a lot of information. A lot of you are cruising soon. We cannot wait to live through you as you lived through us last week. Let's get started now with this question because everybody is asking me on YouTube, on Facebook, do I think cruises will be halted in 2022? Of course, we see the latest realities. We see where cruising is right now. No matter which brand you cruise, we are having issues right now. It's on the news. It's everywhere. I just cruised aboard the Carnival Vista. I have family and friends who contracted COVID on the ship. They're all doing okay, thank goodness, right now. But protocols have proven to work from July when the cruise restart happened until now. Protocols, and that's CDC protocols, that is cruise line protocols, and that is local government protocols have all worked and helped us continue to cruise. But cases are increasing for whatever reason. Some say it's the new variant. Some say it's those who were vaccinated earlier in 2021 are starting to see the vaccine wane a little bit. It's starting to wear off, and so they're more susceptible to catching COVID. But whatever it is, we are at the point now where cases on cruise ships are rising. We're seeing numbers we've never seen before, 20s, 30s, 40s. We saw 50s on a Royal Caribbean ship last week. And so we're at a point now where this question has started to be raised. And at the same time that people are raising this question, the CDC has already said the conditional sail order ends January the 15th, at a little over 2 weeks. It ends, and they've already said we are not going to extend it again. We're not going to give it a version 3 again. And I kind of thought that was odd when they said that, when they extended it in November. But here we are 3 weeks away, and it's like, how do they not extend it? We'll see what happens there. But there's so many factors and things going on right now. Overall, I will just go ahead and tell you, I do not think cruises will be halted in 2022 like we saw them halted in March of 2020. I do not think there will be a big ban. Every cruise ship has to let off passengers and go anchor away in the ocean and sit there for an extended amount of time. I do not think that will happen in 2022, but cruise lines have to pivot, continue to pivot as they did in 2020, as they did in 2021. Capacity has to lower. They've bumped it up now to 80%, some ships at 90%, and we saw the Magic even a couple of weeks ago sell at 95% capacity. This is not the time. It's not. You can test the waters, but when things don't work, you have to pivot and you have to come back down. Testing has to be enhanced. We already test before we get on the ship. There's testing capabilities if we need it on the ship. But what about after we get off? I mentioned yesterday, maybe cruise lines give passengers take-home tests as part of the federal government's initiative of 500 million tests available in the United States. Why not give passengers a test to take when they get off the ship, when they get home, days after? Just make it available. And then they have to, of course, cruise lines have to work with local ports to avoid disruption, because right now what we're seeing, if you cruise, we're seeing local ports saying, no, you're not stopping here. We can see your manifest of passengers. We see that you have reported you have 20 cases on board, you have 30 cases on board, you have 55 cases on board. Odyssey of the Seas. We don't want you to come here. It happened to the Carnival Freedom at 2 different ports this past week. Cruise lines are going to have to work with local ports to avoid disruption. And if you're cruising, you have to be open to anything right now. Okay? Royal Caribbean has already stopped taking bookings for January, citing its health protocols. It maintains that it has not hit the ceiling for passenger capacity, but they have taken January bookings off their website, and it just brings back flashbacks, because when that has happened in the past, cruises have been canceled. Royal Caribbean swears up and down, we're not canceling cruises, but they say this: these measures include vaccination requirements for our guests and crew, a face mask policy, pre-cruise testing for all guests, and weekly testing for every crew member, as well as physical distancing and limited capacity. That is from Vicky Freed, Senior Vice President of Sales. She also said, sailings departing through early January 2022 are no longer open to new reservations because they've met the limited capacity we've set. Changes to existing bookings, such as upgrades or stateroom adjustments, are still being accommodated, although subject to availability. So we're starting to see some backwards trending, some signs that, hey, something is wrong here. I don't think cruises will be canceled, but I do think this. I do think the CDC has put an option on the table that they've never used. It's been in the conditional sell order since the first version was written. It is still there right now, and that is the red status, okay? You've seen, and I've shown you multiple times, you've seen on many Facebook groups that every cruise ship that is sailing right now with paying passengers has a color status. It is either green, yellow, orange, or it could be red or gray. Gray's probably not going to be used. Red has never, ever, ever been used. What red status says is, in short, I'll have some specifics here in just a minute, but if there's a COVID outbreak on board, the CDC is going to change the ship status from green to yellow, okay? But if there is a severe COVID outbreak and a certain number is met, we've read and heard that it's 2% of the total passengers and crew aboard the ship. If more than 2% of the passengers and crew aboard a cruise ship test positive, then that ship will go to red status and literally turn around no matter where it's at and head back to its home port, where it has an agreement with the port how to handle such situations. It's never happened before, but it very well could. If the ship is at a port and guests are off the boat, as soon as they get back on board, it could be a 7-night cruise. The ship could turn red on day 3. It may turn red on day 6. But the ship must head back to port as soon as the CDC says this is red. This is a red case, okay? And the CDC has shared some documentation on this red ship criteria. I will share it with you here. Red ship criteria, it says for a ship to be considered at red status, the ship has to have sustained transmission of COVID-19, okay? Or potential for COVID-19 cases to overwhelm onboard crew medical center resources, which we know are bumped up, but we know it's possible to overwhelm those resources. In addition, the CDC will work closely with the cruise line to consider multiple factors before assigning a red status to a ship. These factors may include, but are not limited to, the following: percent of passengers and crew on board that are fully vaccinated, which we know are 95% or 100%. Okay, we know that for sure. Variants of concern, that one we have right now. Omicron is a variant of concern. And it goes throughout, it talks about links between cases, number of hospital beds and ventilators and oxygen and the oxygen capabilities on board. Ship has not replied to the CDC's request for certain materials or information. That's not going to happen. And during the past 7 days, the ship missed 1 or more daily submissions of the EDC form. That's not going to happen as well. What's going to happen, though, in order to turn a ship red, I think, is this number of cases. From what we hear, Royal Caribbean's incident aboard the Odyssey of the Seas just last week was very close to this red status. I can see the CDC using this, especially early on in a cruise. If there are 20 or 30 cases and you're not even halfway through the cruise, mark the ship red and you come back. Now, what happens after this takes place, no one knows. Do you get a refund for the missed days? What do you have to do to get off the ship? If you have COVID on the ship, do you stay on the ship? What happens to the next cruise? Do they just go to port and they get everyone off the ship and then the next cruise starts on time? Maybe there's a couple of days in between. No one knows. No one knows. But I think it's something that the CDC could use in 2022 instead of canceling mass or blanket canceling of cruises like we saw in March of 2020. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see. Of course, we will keep you updated here at Island Time with anything that we hear. You know that you're going to hear it from us. It's imperative and important. Stay up to date on our Facebook page as Islanders are constantly cruising. If you have not joined our Facebook page, see the link in the description below, and please consider joining. It's great information from our community of Islanders. We will continue this conversation of things that we learned on our Carnival Vista December the 18th cruise and what cruising is going to look like for the next 60 days at least throughout the rest of this year, so the rest of this week. And we will talk to you very, very soon right here on Island Time.